Hello again, this is Tone Deaf Monk. Today I'm bringing you a special piece. This is about the iBasso D17 Atheris. This is a $2,000 portable, transportable DAC amplifier. Now I've had this for a while. I'm probably into it for a few hundred hours of just listening. This is probably the hardest review of any piece of gear I've ever had to do. And I wanted to really get my head wrapped around this unit, and I didn't want to put out a puff piece. I've seen too many of those already. Though it deserves it, which is great. I love puff pieces, and the fact that if you were thinking about buying this one, at least that hype is legit, and it makes you feel great about spending $2,000. Now, here's some of the big questions that I wanted to answer for myself. This is my first R2R, and I'll talk about just in a bit of why that is, because I was holding out. And so here's some of the big questions that I wanted to answer for myself, and maybe you have the same questions as well. So what's the big deal with R2R DACs? Okay, that was one for me. The DX340 Amp 17, was it the same? Is there, it's an in-house developed 1-bit DAC as well that's inside of this unit. Is there a difference between those two? The R2R sound, is it worth it? What's the deal with the two different volume control knobs? Is it powerful enough? So those were some of the questions that I really wanted to answer for myself, and I'm going to answer them hopefully for you. Talking about what's inside, and I did an unboxing already for this transportable device. What is an R2R DAC? And now, if you Google searched it, you would say it's like a ladder resistor network, very finely matched resistors. Typically, the finer the tolerances, the better the array of the DAC is going to be. But that's also, from my research, the cost to buy those finer tolerance parts really takes its toll on the final pricing, the retail price of this, right? And you do see there are many examples of R2R DACs on the market, and probably right now the most hyped ones are coming out from FIU, the K11 R2R, and now the balanced version of the K13. And for me, I was holding out for the X-Duo R2R for my XD05 Pro. Now, I bought that with the promise from them that they were going to have an R2R DAC for that unit, and that's why I paid $1,000 for that unit. Now, delay after delay, it seems the X-Duo just put out a substandard product because either the limited size format of the card itself or the costing just to make a proper R2R was just not in the cards. And in the end, $199 asking price is what you got. And you also just got like a 32-bit structure, 128 film resistor network. And that piece really got warm response at best. And that kind of sums it up for me of, why I was holding out for an R2R DAC. I didn't want to buy a substandard version of it. I wanted to listen to what a proper R2R was going to give me. And it wasn't going to give me the magic that people talk about when they have this hearts in their eyes floating around when they talk R2R. Now, there's a whole lot to go over on this product, and I'm going to break it down in this next section of, since this has multiple sound profiles, right? So you're not just getting an R2R DAC, you're getting a 1-bit DAC that's self-developed by iBasso. You're getting tubes from Korg, right? Here's how I heard some of these differences to answer some of my own questions. I'll first talk about the inputs. Now, there's two really on this thing. It's either the COAX input or the USB C DAC input. First time ever, I have actually heard a very audible difference in sound using coax versus USB-C. I heard people before say that they can hear a difference, but I've never experienced that myself. So for me, I'm coming on to you and telling you that using the coax digital input cable, coax to me sounds sweeter. USB-C, the C sounds crisper. And the funny thing is too, is that I found the coax to have just a little bit less output volume as well. And I'm not sure why that is, but if you wanted to squeeze the most amount of volume out of this, I think the USB-C was, but for the sweetness, coax seemed to be the chef's kiss for me. And then there's the tube mode. For me, how does it sound? Well, on tube mode, so taking a step back, I also have the PB6 here with the Raytheon Jan tubes. And I've listened to a variety now of Raytheon Jan tubes, those miniature tubes. And I do find they do make a difference subtly. Where I find with the Korg new tubes, they make more than a subtle difference. It's actually what I was expecting when I'm looking for some 2B distortions, some analogness. And that's what the D17 gave me. And I was super, super excited to see that iBasso put these tubes in here versus the Raytheon Jan tubes, because I don't think it would make as much as a difference as it does with these tubes. On the sound-wise, on tube mode, the stage gets a bit more intimate for me, but not quite, because it honestly just sounds to me like more like a spatializer effect in a subtle but noticeable way. So again, it wasn't flip a switch and completely, yes, it was a completely different sound profile, but it wasn't full. It still maintained the core characteristics of the D17 with its just, and I'm going to go a bit more on it as well, but it has all of the favorite things I would want in a source with just some added subtle tube analogness. That's how I'm going to describe flipping the switch, right? Regardless of what mode you're on, and I'll go into that here in a bit, I found the bass, I'll talk about that, is one of the things that I thought was standout about the D17. It is, and that's what I love about Amp 17 and the DX340, is the bass is authoritative and it's punchy and it pulls deep. And the D17 does that for me. I really love it. When I was using the BGVP Solomon, absolutely love that I am. The top end is hardly touched, is what I find. When it comes to, again, in the R2R mode, in the NOS mode, in the 1-bit mode, the top end treble is just really, really well done. It's really well defined and has good character to it. And same as the mids. The mids have a nice body and weight, but everything comes across with the D17 as a very natural sounding, and I'm going to use that word probably quite a bit in this review. Now, when I was listening to the Solomon and I put it onto tube mode, the word synergy comes to play, right? With that IM and the D17 in R2R mode and the tube amplifier engaged, it is just magical. In fact, in my whole journey with this source, it really came apparent that this product in front of me really kind of just upped the game for everything I threw at it. And this is why it took me such a long time to actually get to this point where I could share my thoughts and feelings on this product, is because I would really just get pulled away. I would be listening to something and I just couldn't sit there and write anything down. I didn't want to. I just wanted to be enveloped into the music. And that's a good thing. So and then I'd have to, I didn't want to switch modes because I was just enjoying it. So again, I'd have to go back in and listen to it. Oh, woe is me, right? So it was pretty good. But tube mode with the Solomon, it just, again, synergy, wonderful. I used in my review here, wow, everything that I had in my favorites cases and my headphones, everything I threw at it to really get a feel of how this thing sounded. And I got more comparisons near the end. So one thing I really noticed, what I thought too was super wonky, was the double volume control. So I'll talk about that. And it didn't make sense to me until, again, I played around with it more. In fact, I posted a social media content going, what's the deal with the two volume controls? Well, it turns out that the big one, the 24-step actuator that is, again, thank you, iBasso, you killed it on this one. That really only, that engages only when you're on the tube amplification mode. If you're just on line out, bypassing the tubes, only the digital volume control works. So that is your volume control knob. But when you're on tubes, both of them are. So this is your 24-step and this is your fine tuning. Really quite cool. The one thing that also that I noticed in my journey is that on tube mode, this produces more power, or at least louder for me. So, and I freaked out a bit because if you're switching between, on the menu, if you're switching between line out mode and tube mode, and you have the tube mode dialed up, but you have the digital control dialed down, when you're switching between line and tubes, sometimes it could get really loud when you switch it over to tube. So just something to be aware of, and you'll get used to it once you buy this thing. So, and this has been running now for about 2 hours too. I'm going to say one more thing. This thing gets maybe lukewarm at best. So that's one thing. I came off of another couple amps, the Burson and the Galvatron, and those things get blazing hot. Heat kills electronics. So it's nice to see that this giant chunk of heatsink is doing a fantastic job keeping this thing cool. It's also going to keep it lasting a long, long time. Now, title, music. Using the DX340, here's one of those questions I was trying to answer myself. And here I was switching between using the DX340 and using the DX340 as a transport. And on one of the songs that I was playing that really stood out for me, using the D17 on tube mode, God Went Crazy by Teddy Swims. Well, this amp has just never made the Solomon, for me, this alive and beautiful. The way it rendered that song virtually brought me to tears. Super lush mids and deep resonating bass and beautiful, beautiful top end was wonderful. The other thing I can say with the D17 listening to its sonic character is the stage on this device is incredibly open and spacious. Amazing 3D. Image placement is simply standout. The Solomon is a fantastic IM for that. Layers things, and the D17 plays to that strength. And I've never heard anything I listen to on this DAC amp has the best it's ever been for me. And in my journey, Touch Me Like a Gangster. Jessie Murph. I don't know how I came across this lady. She is my new favorite female vocal artist. What a crazy track, first of all. The vocals of Jessie's voice is surreal, like old school gangster jazz. I hit repeat on this track about 10 times and definitely more after that now. And then I went to go find more of her music. Why am I saying that? Well, music is emotion. And when you can find something that moves you like this, using this product, that is fantastic. That's why we do what we do, why you're watching this review, and why we buy gear like this. Now, to do that comparison with the DX340 Amp 17, which I think, in my opinion, is the best of the best right now from iBasso when it comes to sound. That DAP is truly fabulous. Amp 17 for me killed Amp 15 in it. My other favorite was Amp 14 with the new tube amplifiers. And I was listening to that as well as the D17 with the tubes, right, in that mode. And this is kind of where I came across my observations. The H3 filter, it's the most analytical of the iBasso DX340. Here, comparing between the two, the D17 sounds more resolving in 1-bit mode, and I think it's cleaner. It is cleaner. And the bass is just a bit deeper, but more authoritative and full on the D17. This was a huge welcome surprise. Stage, of course, also went to the, not of course, actually, because the DX340 Amp 17 is standout. So to have something like the Atheris to be better was, again, not just a pleasant surprise, a huge smile on my face. Deeper, wider, and more 3D with standout spatial clues, again, making the Solomon, making my hi-fi-man just have stage that puts a big shit-eating grin on your face. When you find synergy or simply want to smooth out and detailed listen, this amp DAC source is the one. You can pair it with your favorite transport, your headphones and IMs, and simply have a show-stopping performance. In those different modes, if you're not familiar, for me, so it takes some playing around. So the OS mode, everything you're making go to the R2R DAC. The SD mode, everything all to DSD for processing to the 1-bit DAC. And then the NOS mode handles the PCM and the DSD files separately. So it's a combination thereof. NOS, to me, sounds the most lively and energetic. The SD mode sounds the most warm and intimate, where the OS mode, the R2R mode, sounds the widest and has the biggest stage. For me, my favorite is the R2R. But again, it really depends on the gear, the synergy that I was listening to. And what makes me so impressed about this unit is in the fact that it has multiple sound profiles that really change the end experience. Okay, next up, let's talk about some of the things that I liked about the Atheris and some of the things that I thought could be improved. Let's go with the good first. Sound, really, honestly. Of all the variances between the R2R and the 1-bit, I just thought this unit was standout. And not just its ability to, its naturalness, which I found, and kind of answered that question of what's so special about R2R. And for me, it was really how natural the D17 came across. Different from everything else that I've owned or have listened to, and it really stood out for me. So that was really nice. The fully accessorized package with the COAX with a really nice leather case. Yeah, you're paying a premium for this product, but it also didn't leave you, it left you feeling that you got your money's worth, and it didn't feel like they cheaped out anywhere. In fact, it went above and beyond to really make the presentation and what you got in usability really, really nice. So, warm and fuzzies. Flexibility with the inputs and outputs, really. I really do like the fact that they included an optical coax input as well as the USB-C. I liked the fact that there's a separate USB charge port on it, that you can use it continuous. Like, you don't have to rely on the battery. And this was a little wonky, but again, got used to that, no problem. Tube modes, with or without, the choice is yours. You can use it as an R2R, you can use it as a 1-bit, you can use it with those and tubes as well. And so the mileage that you get on this unit is extensive, right? So I can't see, it's not just one tonality. And I'll get to that when I'm talking about later, when I compare it to the BURSON Conductor GT4. Detailed retrieval of between tracks. I mean, what it can pull out of the track in spatial clues is just off the hook. The way it can layer instruments and vocals playing in their own space and allowing the notes to finish is truly standout. And that's top tier gear we're talking about, and performance wise, pretty amazing. The 30,000 hour lifespan on the Korg noob tubes. Now, if you're not familiar with that, the Korg noob tubes are special in a way, in the fact that they have massive lifespan, way more than the 5,000 hours from the Raytheon Jan tube. So again, using that in here, how easy they are to drive, which also reduces the heat of this unit. Again, lifespan, usability. Others have also talked about battery replacements. Again, iBasso is thinking progressively with that. I think they're still one of the few companies that let you replace your battery at the end of its lifespan. And I still have a D90 that I just bought new batteries for it, and the thing is still going like an Energizer bunny. So virtually no RF interference or when you're banging this unit around. The only time I ever had issues, not really an issue, is that when I have the case off and I was, tapping it or whatever, you'd hear a ping. That's what you would get. But putting even your DAP right on top of where the tubes are, I didn't really get any interference. And not that I was trying, because I typically are conscious of that. I'm mindful, so I do move it away from that, and I bought a longer coax cable. It's like a half a meter one, so that I can do that as well. So that's, I mean, some of the really fine points that I thought were really stand out. I mean, obviously the sound is first and foremost. What about things that I thought could be improved upon? Well, you can't turn off the lights ever for the tubes. If this unit is on, the tubes light up. Okay, would be nice. Though you can turn off the display, you can't turn off the tube lights. So at night, not that the light green really bothered me too much, but it'd be nice if you could have turned it off and had that feature in the menu. So that's one, and it could be, I think it's a function of the engineering of this unit, so I don't know if it can be done, right? The on-off switch on the back, not, while it's probably quality, because I wouldn't expect iBasso to do anything else, I thought one of those micro rocker switches would have been a better choice. But again, who knows? I mean, I'm not the engineer for this, but I would have liked to see a better feeling quality on-off switch. The sockets for the inputs and outputs are recessed. Some people I know have had issues with that, but quite honestly, that's pretty chonky. But if you have a cable that is bigger than that, then honestly, switch cables, right? I mean, that's a pretty big hole for your stuff. I don't think it's really too much of an issue, but I thought I'd mention it because it was mentioned in the forums. But again, I don't really have an issue. Same as the USB-Cs and power into the back. It is recessed, but again, I think all those things are done for a reason, for protection-wise. So can't really fault it. I mean, the same thing is iBasso put the volume control knobs flush with the little protectors on the side. Again, these are just really nice touches. So not really too much of a negative. I'm pulling strings here. The dual volume control knobs were something I needed to learn and be mindful of when switching between tube mode and line out mode. The UAC app, the iBasso app, at this time has no support. So that would have been nice to see, but I'm not sure if that's something in the works for this unit. If you're not sure what that is, when you have Android device, I'm not sure about iOS, I think so, but they have a UAC app that lets you control the Nunchaku, the DC Elite, DC07, all those little dongles, lets you adjust the features and the options inside of the app. When you plug this thing in, it doesn't recognize it, at least for me, at this time. So what makes the D17 Atheris special? That's a great question, isn't it? Firstly, it's not just an R2R DAC. It's also a fully developed 1-bit DAC, and taking that a bit further, a hybrid of both. So on top of that, the D17 can be used in line output mode, or it can be amplified using the dual sets of cord new tubes for an even more analog flavor. These are all things that are adding value to this. It's not just a one-trick pony. In fact, it's beyond that a great deal. On the R2R side, the D17 uses, and this is an important point for me, and going back to the beginning of the video when I said I was disappointed with what some of the other companies were coming out with. The D17 uses a total of 284 high precision, really high precision film resistors with an incredible accuracy of 0.01%. These incredibly fine tolerances and the sheer amount of top tier components the D17 is using is what you're paying for. For this kind of sound signature to achieve that kind of delicate analog sound, that's what the iBasso engineered to put in this piece. It was a pretty serious undertaking, I think, more than most people realize in order to get to that, and why there is top tier gear and why this one is a worlds above an entry level sacrifice like what X Duo did. And so now, don't let the delicate sound wording that I just used fool you into thinking that the Atheris is a pushover when it comes to performance. That's not at all. The D17 sounds incredibly rich in its details, and its ability to project a very spacious and hugely holographic soundstage with pinpoint accuracy and the layering of instruments is really second to none. Now, getting in deeper into the sound, when I threw on some Hi-Fiman 400Is that I've modified, this is a classic case use of why you'd want to use an R2R and tubes for stuff like this. I find planar headphones, especially the 400Is for me, need tubes. They need something to calm them down. And when you put this on those headphones, for me, it tames the planarness enough for me to really enjoy that headphone set. And typically I find them on a very, very, like on the Astle & Kern Con Max. I can't do it. It's just too bright and too harsh. The D17 drives them, which are not an easy headphone to drive, more than loud enough. Plenty of headroom. And then on tube mode, I found it was enough, but on line out mode, it was just enough. And then I wanted to really torture test this device because I think that's important. You're spending $2,000. Some of the criticisms that this unit has is it's limited power. It's 1,200 milliwatts of power. Is it enough? So for me to answer that, I put on a pair of 300 ohm headphones called the Velcan Electronics, the VE Vanguards. They are not an easy headphone to drive, not at 300 ohms, that's for sure. And they're not efficient. But now on tube mode, the D17, for sound-wise, really, really is magical, again, with those headphones. Can it drive these very hard-to-drive headphones? Yes, and it makes them sound simply fantastic. Best I've heard out of those headphones. And yes, you can drive those headphones. For me, I like to listen to it loud, but it is reaching the limit of this amplifier, to answer that question. Do you need more juice if you have something even harder to drive than those? Well, here's where iBasso came out with maybe the PB6. Might be the answer for you to pair with it to give it more power, to give like 2,300 milliwatts of power. So again, your case usage and your experiences vary, right? So when I was thinking to myself, also, I mean, who should buy this? And I thought, maybe someone who wants to take their game to the next level in sonic performance and don't mind using this transportable form, right? And I think that's the bonus, because you're also not strapped down to a stationary point like a desktop system, right? So you don't mind the transportable form. It's got a battery that goes for days and days. And you're not going to mind pairing it with, a transport, and boom, boom, away you go. So I love the DX180 with this. I think it was, and the form factor was really good too, right? So I really like that, and the coaxial output. I love that DAC as a transport with the Atheris. And again, I mean, this is very clean sound signature, very uncolored. But here is, a completely different game. Now, sound versus desktop mode, where this is tutored as, possible desktop replacement. Let me answer that, because that was another question that I had. Sound versus my reference desktop setup, my old reference desktop setup. That is an LHY audio linear power supply powering a Geshelli Labs J3 Pro with top-of-the-line Sparkos 2590 op amps out to my topping A90D, which that gets praised as a fantastic amplifier. And yes, that system is great. Well, the D17 is so much punchier. I do love my bass, but I love the control and of bass, not just volume of bass. I want control. I want headroom. I want to make sure everything is the notes are being filled out properly, and they hit hard. With good definition and decay. Well, the D17 does that. It's so much more punchier in the bass, but that's not all. It was crisper and more defined in the mids, more filled out and natural sounding. That DAC with the AKM chip is warm. So one of the things that I wanted to listen to is on R2R. Is it a warm sounding DAC, or is it natural sounding DAC like people were saying? And I answered that question to myself, listening to these two. That system on my desk is warm. Kind of on the top end, it's even though it's not tubes, it's kind of rolled off a bit on the top, compared to listening to this, where this is full frequency on the top end, but and not harsh in any particular way. It was really great. So, and I thought my desktop setup was pretty standout, but after comparing the Atheris D17, I think there's going to be a topping A90D going on sale. So now here's another one. Okay. And I'm just having BURSON sent me their flagship Conductor GT4 fully loaded. It's a shit ton of money, and it's a phenomenal piece of gear. It is a sweet piece of gear. And I can honestly say that the D17 goes toe to toe in technicalities and resolution. But here's the difference, and this is where having multiple sound profiles really gives the full credit and edge to the iBasso in this case. The NOS mode is cleaner and more vivid than the BURSON. The SD mode, all the one bit, is smoother, and the R2R mode is more natural sounding. And then there's the tube you can do on it to add in some tube warmth and analog distortions going on, where the BURSON doesn't offer that. It's stationary, and it's heavy as hell and hot as hell. Pure Class A of 10 watts of power. That thing is a beast. It's an awesome desktop amp, probably my favorite I've heard to date. But it's nice to know that the D17 can go, again, toe-to-toe with it. That's pretty impressive right there. So in conclusion, how do I come across, how did this D17 Atheris come across for me? Well, iBasso killed it. It's a serious piece of gear. It's very, very well engineered and put together unit. Multiple sound profiles, a truly well-developed R2R DAC. I am an R2R believer now. I get it. I hear it. I see it. And I'm a believer. A perfectly matched tube amplifier, again, chosen. iBasso put some thought into this unit. And I think with this unit that all those different sound profiles really should hit every person's preferred sound signature, not just one. It's not just a one-trick pony. And here it's all housed into a semi-portable, transportable package that will, because of that huge battery, I've only charged it once out of all that time, maybe a couple times, really hard to keep track, but once that I remember. So it'll keep your music going for days and days on end. For sound-wise, that one big question is I have a DX340. What do I get? So I think it's like the DX340 in the sound-wise with having not just amp 17, but also amp 14 with this all rolled into one. It outshines the 340 amp 17 or 14, either in tubes or in one bit with that amplifier stage, with a more natural sounding profile, and keeping all of the best things that I loved about the DX340 with either amp 14 or amp 17. So just enhanced that, and not just a little bit, but quite a bit. So it's not a DAP though, but for upping your game in sound, the D17 I think will do it. What I loved is I didn't lose anything. In fact, it gained where the bass is wonderfully natural, tight, fast, and authoritative. And that mid-range is incredibly natural sounding. Again, I'm going to use that word. It's just a pleasure to listen to. I think if you are willing to just add a transport to this unit, and you will have yourself one hell of a setup, and you're not tied to a sitting position. So that's my thoughts on the iBasso D17 Atheris. Came away more than impressed. So again, I'm going to say good job, iBasso. You've exceeded my expectations, and you've made me a R2R believer. So thank you for that.